Today we have Vladimir Samborskiy, the COO of Rocket Delivery or Rocket. What was the general situation back in 2016? This whole transition was happening everywhere at the same time with raising the prices. Was it the calculated risk, or was it just like, okay, we got this 100 million, we have a lot of cash, and let's see what works, let's see what sticks?
Try to sell ourselves to someone, and Foodpanda were one of the players who were looking for Ukraine to enter, and they proposed to manage Foodpanda Malaysia. First, you have to have something working to optimize it. So the strategy is you come in, you boom it out. If it doesn't work, come out. I remember like Ralph being CEO of Foodpanda at that time, like, dude, you're killing the market.
When you started your journey in Rocket, it was a small team, 1 or 2 cities, if I'm not mistaken. And right now, it is already the company that is going beyond just one country, just one city. Could you please share some context around it? How does the mindset of people working with you, whom you're attracting to the team, and your personal mindset, the management mindset, changing from smaller company to a bigger company? And how does the general environment look like when you are scaling the way the company is scaling right now and the way the industry is scaling right now? Because food delivery and grocery delivery, the whole on-demand delivery industry is a very, very big, enormous, I would even say, pot of a lot of talent, a lot of money, and a lot of big goals. But at the same time, it's the industry that has very high expectations, a lot of pressure, and the priorities that need to be set right. How could you navigate through all this? And what do you think is the most important in the terms of vision and in terms of general way that you're walking right now?
Yes, cool. Thank you. Lots of good questions in that big question. Okay, first of all, just remembering the days, and honestly, I think there's one thing that should be uniting probably is people who are in the startup world. You get addicted to this stuff, right? Because it's like the level of uncomfort that you get used to is just tremendous. I mean, I think it only comes in comparison to people who go in military, and because you get this addicted to adrenaline. So in a way, you are used to solving so many issues at the same time that if you go to usual job, I think you would be just frustrated and and you'll be panicking. So having said that, this is because I'm remembering the first days or months in Rocket, and I've been through this in different other startups, and this just amazing. So it's always, the mentality is very much different, because in the beginning, when the guys invited me in, and I thought I don't lose much. It's like I'm definitely comfortable in this industry. I've seen a lot. I can be an expert. They love me because I'm an expert, right? And I fully control couriers in Kiev, so I'm super comfortable. I can do it like that, and that's how I felt. So but if somebody would have asked me to put a bet on Rocket and say that are you going to beat Glovo? I'm like, I don't know. It was like let's go test the game. It was just a random thing, and I don't lose anything, right? Because I'm treated as a guy with the most experience between the founders. So yeah, why not? I definitely know for the whole year at least, I know everything that's going to happen, and I'm 100% comfortable with it. No risks at all. And then when you start playing the game, obviously, you start participating and caring, because when you launch a city, when you launch a capital, you first get a bunch of restaurants, you get a part of the city done, right? And then you have to get couriers there, which obviously you pay for nothing, right? And it's a different group of couriers that are going to work eventually, because these guys are hiding away from orders, right? And you can't do marketing because you haven't covered everything, right? Because if somebody sees your ad, opens it in the left bank and doesn't see any restaurants, he'll delete it and never open it again. So you're in this stupid position when you kind of have to launch, but you can't. So you first have to do geography, but at the same time spending hell lots of what. So you look at the screen, look at these empty couriers, they're not busy. You know how much money it costs and you can't do anything. And you try to realign with marketing, which is also just establishing itself, So we have this marketing, which you're not sure if they know what they're doing, right? And no matter the expertise, you can't go and fix it for them. So you're kind of, and it's happening in the same. So, and then you try to influence everything with the sales, like what part of the city to go next. It's easier now when you have everything covered and you have 300 partners, 3,000 partners, like in one city. But when you start, it's, so you have your own personal goals. Well, of course, first of all, things have to work, right? You have to have those couriers on the ground and it has to be work. But then you have your logical next steps. Like once you've covered the city, and oh my God, it took us quite a while, right? And then when you can start, because unit economics are just crazy bad, right? Because like it costs you very expensive to deliver one order and it doesn't make any economical sense, but you have to go through it, right? And then when after that, you're able to switch off the hourly payment and to put in whatever remuneration. And when you're break even on after delivery, it's like, it feels like you've done a revolution, because basically, the Spanish guys came, but they're not our guys. So nobody in Ukraine did it before, and I wasn't sure if they're doing it profitably yet too, because like still doing McDonald's exclusively at the same, at that time. So to describe at that stage, the mentality is you hustle every day and your goal is to survive. That's because this is how the company feels, right? Nobody knows us, right? Those big guys have McDonald's, everything. It's like you feel like definitely like IBM, and then you launch some company in your garage with your friends, right? So you're like, you don't exist yet. And the founders go and talk to lots of partners personally, try to build up the relationship for them to connect to us, and it still doesn't make any sense. So you're basically, when you're trying to build a fire and you do a small thing and you try so that it doesn't die, so it becomes a big fireplace, So in the beginning, you're kind of very protective of the small thing. And that's what the mentality of the company is. So it's not about long-term view, not about the strategy, because you either exist or you don't exist. It's not as dramatic, you're going to die. You're not going to die, right? But all your focus, so you don't think about anything else. So, and after that, it's survival at a bigger level. In the sense of, okay, you got the city running, but you're still nothing in comparison to the big, huge competitor who's been here first, who has exclusivity with McDonald's. You're trying to do new cities, and it's also a challenge because nobody did it first. So how do you launch in a city where you're not, where do you get the couriers from? And so you kind of do the logical steps, put the announcement, the couriers go to the city, get them together, talk them through, and then it just starts appearing, and then your sales guys transform into city managers, and then suddenly, there's managed from HQ, and you have these regular meetings which build up into more kind of like professional kind of reporting systems with tax setting and task threading. So it starts building up like a whole big machine, and it's fun. So, but still survival mode, right? And still there is like, we still need to survive, and everything was under question. And then there is UberEats to the market. Yeah, we are the third guys in the market, right? And then rumors of these COVID, something I try to stay away from mass media totally, right? But then we all have relatives and who are more worried. And then my father calls me and says, look, you have to go prepare, buy these, face masks. I'm like, what the hell? What are you talking about? Like, I don't have time for this. And he's like, some bad thing is coming. And I felt obliged to go to our founders and say, look, I don't think this is true, but if this is going to happen, this might influence us a lot. So let's talk about it. They're like, nah, nothing's happening. It's not going to happen. I'm saying, but let's think about it, because, in a way, and I'm looking what's going on in Asia, with them like driving out this help packages to people in need and playing it with the government. It can go very much our way or very much, from our way, because like in one way, your couriers are at risk of redistributing the disease, or on the other side, you are the only supply chain for the whole community. So then when it came really, really closer and everything was at risk, and thank God the mentality of our government or society was comfortable and ready with delivery companies, right? Because with all respect, I'm not saying that they saved the world, but I think that they made life easier for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Like these guys, in a way, they are heroes, because now we're kind of got used to living with this COVID. That time it was like everybody was scared of it like plague. You don't know, like you don't know what it is, but you could die tomorrow. Maybe not, but everybody says it's that bad, right? So these guys putting on like their and doing the job was amazing, right? So having your food delivered, some of us had zero stress out of it. Like I personally worked from home because lots of people were, right, and I could have food delivered at home. I could not notice that anything changed. So anyway, that was a tremendous push of the whole community to go. So obviously our orders jumped tremendously, and it's pretty easy because the restaurants are closed. And the president is announcing that please order online, and you are one of the 3 players. You're like, thank you very much. So,
you saved a lot of marketing, right?
yeah. So, and it's good that I mean, obviously, with any success, there's a good part of luck of it, right? Because just before that, we were pumping a lot into the brand awareness marketing. So we're like, people knew that we're out there, yeah. But again, people needed to try it out to really use it. Honestly, I've been with the industry for quite a while, and I haven't been an active user of the service myself, because now it's developed that, look, like seriously, now 35 minutes, the average time is pretty amazing, right? And the choices are pretty good, and restaurants learns to pack it up. And so it got to the level, but still, the COVID part trained me that it's okay to use it, even me, who's like that long. And I think a lot of people, because, like the mind doesn't know something until it experiences. We can logically think, yeah, same price, blah, blah, but until we actually tried it and it worked for us, right? So COVID made a lot of people try it and go through it numerous of times. And it's not that it's addictive, but then that the price is about the same. You can find the restaurants that are going to cost you about the same than go out and cooking for yourself, with all the preparation time and going out to the shop. And so it's really a way to take away one of the, home routines or hustles away from you. And a lot of those people stayed with the service, and this is not happening only in Ukraine, around the globe, right? So that's why people are not selling shares of these companies, because people tried it. A bunch of them will drop, but a good bunch of them, because people got educated, especially in Ukraine, right? Especially in the markets which don't have in Asia, the culture of delivery is way back there. And even with all the respect to to Ukraine, Malaysia has been longer time in stable politically economical stance, right? So it helps, right? Because our people are still, capitalism is still a new thing to us, especially for the people older than you and me. And no matter that, we still buy things and pay for things, the mentality is still not as much there. So it takes generations and time. So that's why no matter how people in Ukraine might think about Asia, those things, at least they didn't have Soviet Union until yesterday and it fully collapsed. They had their own hardships, yes, but for a long time, it's been a good combination of capitalism there in some form. And they do have classes, whatever, but, people are used for and the restaurant business found its way there and established it. In Ukraine, it's still in process. I still may allow myself to say that, because before restaurants were only because those were not really businesses. Those were side businesses of people who had money, right? So after the Soviet Union collapsed, sorry for a little history lesson, right? The money is concentrated out of big things like production, whatever, big things. We're not talking about entrepreneurship for a long time, right? It takes time for entrepreneurs to build up businesses.
Oh yeah,
so
absolutely.
The restaurants were, I don't know, wife of some guy who has money, son, daughter, whatever, doing some things to make it look good. Yeah, and only during the past, let's say 10 years, it started closer to develop for the people, so that the price and average basket size is accessible for the people. Still not to the majority, please, but it's slowly and in Asia, for example, that thing was there for ages. Yes, sometimes you can buy any average guy, no matter of his money making, will be able to buy street food because it's been there for hundreds of years. And that's why
the culture itself of buying stuff, actually going out, has been growing there with generations, rather than in the country of the post-Soviet Union, where people are completely with a different mindset, and not just ordering stuff, but actually going out is completely different. So from there, you were basically, this is like the bottom line, right? You're strengthening the company, and this is kind of the landscape of what was happening with the COVID pushing and president.
Yeah. Sorry, I got carried away a little. Yeah. So COVID obviously, pushed the whole thing quite strongly, and then another big thing happens. So McDonald's having exclusivity before that with Glovo, as you might know, so big players like McDonald's or KFC, they're usually 50% of orders of any delivery service. So this mass market, which is super branded, super known, and people go especially to these apps to take them. And Glovo, when entered the market, they signed up this exclusivity, which they had for a long time. And obviously, Glovo cannot be making a lot of money, with these partners. So they started trying to negotiate higher up margins. And McDonald's is a big player, and with all the respect to the Glovo guys, didn't think that it's the way to do business with them. So they started looking around for some alternative, because they can't be dependent on only one guy who's delivering their food. And obviously on the market there was UberEats and Rocket. So there was like unspoken tender, you could say, that's been going on between the two of us. So they've requested, because we've been trying to talk to them for all this time during the time, and they were saying, well, we have exclusivity, we'll see what's going on in the future, what's your plans. And one of the rules that you have to have when you're working with these guys, if you have to have coverage, because if you want to sign McDonald's, you have to be in all the cities that they're present in, and they're everywhere. And for a new company, it's pretty hard to be everywhere. So we've been speeding up our expansion a lot. We have a very cool guy who's head of regional director. We called him lots of things, but he was basically in charge of sales around all the cities. His name is Vladimir. And he was doing tremendous work, just launching the cities like crazy. So he would be on the phone 24/7. He was hiring the sales guy, managing them to sell everything, to get the partners on board. And then we would find the couriers on the ground and just launch it. So I think in one day we launched like something like 6 cities just to hit the mark with McDonald's. It was just crazy. Yeah, so basically we presented our plan to McDonald's, and they came back to us and said, look, we looked into it, we looked into all the data, the retention. Somehow they got this data, I have no idea, and we're going to go with you. And it was a tremendous win for us, because that still was
instead of UberEats.
Yeah. That was like, you can say whatever. I'm not saying we pushed away UberEats from the market. I'm not saying it, right? But at that moment, UberEats globally announced that they're not going to be sticking around the countries where they're not number 1 or number 2. And with McDonald's on our side, there's 0 chance for them to be number 2, right? So we basically finalized that decision. So after that, very shortly, they announced that they're leaving the market. And that was a tremendous step in survival. Now I'm thinking like fully respectful with McDonald's, and they're tremendous partners for us. Yeah, but we kind of get used to that, and we're kind of big now. But at that stage, it was like survive or not survive, because now, being not known, out of nowhere, huge global player with lots of money playing on your market, having exclusivity with McDonald's, with the KFC and stuff, and then us appearing and us getting into that league. So now we can start at least, playing on the same rules, but with still having less capital, less not being the first, etc. So those were the moves.
That was the milestone when actually if I followed the timeline correctly, small team, 20, 30 people, COVID comes, you say that it's going to be something big, and who knows how it's going to play out, but it's a big chance. President announcing that order stuff online, and then the big fight to McDonald's. Is the McDonald's case the kind of the start jump where you started believing that it's like possible to the moon? This was the actual milestone where it started to change completely.
I think that was Yes, because basically without McDonald's, you're kind of simulating it, right? Because that is an outside confirmation, especially in that case when somebody breaks the exclusivity with a huge player, and like it is a confirmation of the outside world and that you are a player, and you basically multiply your orders by two easily and much more going forward, right? You were struggling to get where you are, but now you do extra cities and automatically you have orders in those cities because they have McDonald's there. So you start just growing, and it's a huge partnership. Of course, it's going to cost you, etc. But now it's something like you had, Muhammad Ali, then you're not known, and then you are allowed in the ring with Muhammad Ali. That tells you something, right? It doesn't mean you're going to win it, but hey, like, who am I to be allowed in his ring? That's how you usually, consider the big brother, right? So that was a big win for us. By that time, we probably had around like 100 people. It seemed like hell, we grew crazy, or 120, I don't remember. So the IT department was by itself already around 25, 30 people, but it's still nothing, right? I mean, like in comparison to any big guys. So all the decisions and all the kind of IT solutions and the logistics part, we were kind of looking. So half of it came from my probably experience and some logic that we had, and it's just in talks with IT guys. So we're doing very logical next steps, which should be done. So it's funny. So in the way you're totally reinventing how the whole IT thing must be working, with the couriers, with remuneration. I remember when we were deciding, should we go onto the slot system like Glovo does, or we should do the freelance as UberEats does. And I was working with UberEats at that time, and I was really on the side of UberEats. And I said, no, we definitely have to do this free market stuff with, couriers working anytime they want. And I'm happy that we went that way, because it's a huge competitive advantage for the couriers, to go with us as alternative. If we were the same, it would be really hard to compete on the courier side with them, having the same logic. But they would be probably winning in a lot of cases with the number of orders, for example.
Could you please give some context? What do you mean about this slot system, and what was Uber and Glovo doing at that time? And what are the differences, and why do you think one is better than the other? A little bit going from this kind of journey question, but still, I think it's a very core and important point, because it was also one of the turning points of the Rocket business itself, right? Which way to choose?
Yeah. Okay. So, for example, if you're a courier and you want to work at Glovo in Ukraine, what happens is you register with them, go through whatever procedure, and then in your app, about twice per week, you get a message to choose your working hours. Okay, so if you've been a good guy, depending on your renting, you get your message a little earlier than the guys who've been a little lazier. This kind of motivation system to do good. So you open up your schedule, you see the next 3 days or 4 days, and you choose your hours. Like, let's say Wednesday, I get a message, I have to choose my Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday working hours. And I have to sign up to these hours, and I have to be there. So the cool part for the business is they know pretty much exactly, how many couriers they're going to have and where. The bad part is the couriers, you're not always happy. You're a free guy, you're a freelancer, and then you have to sign up. And then, like, maybe I don't feel like in 2 days to be there, or the weather is going to be bad or whatever. So it's kind of two-sided sword, right? So if you're, obviously, when you're a leader of the market, it's a little easier to do. The opposite side of it was the model that UberEats already used then, that Rocket is using now, with adjustments, is when you sign up with Rocket and you're a courier, after you're signed up, you have your app. Anytime you want during our working hours, which is, we work during the nights now also, you just go in the territory of Rocket service, which is all the city, press ready, and you're ready to receive the orders. Which is tremendous for the guys who just want to wake up.
Absolutely.
Go out, work and what. So it's pretty, the difference is huge for both, for the business. So we do have a lot of cool tools so basically we are kind of the free market, they're kind of the structured market. The free market, we have to advertise for the couriers to come out and work. So we have this big city, we divide it into zones, and we create different rules of payments to motivate the couriers to come out. And then we use these coefficients. So, for example, if you, in average, would make 40 hryvnias for one delivery, which is around, I don't know, what is it, $1.5
bucks, yeah.
€1.5, yeah. So then we would multiply this fee to a coefficient in each zone or sector, depending, for example, if we don't have enough couriers, we would say, if you go here, 1.5, and the courier sees it in the app. So he'll go there to have more orders. Or if it's raining really heavy, we're going to put 1.8 everywhere to keep them motivated to work. Or on top of that, we can have a weekly bonus, for example, make 300 orders during this week and get another 50 euros, for example. And then we get, on top of that, we have like do X, get Y, because we have, obviously, we have demand hours, right? Like peak hours for during lunchtime and in the evening. And we have peak zones, like, for example, the center of the Kyiv, where everybody's sitting in the office during the peak hours, the number of orders multiplied during the peak hours, like times 3. So the average is 100, that jumps to 300. So we would do an extra bonus just for that zone. Like in that zone, during the peak hours, make your 3 orders, receive whatever, 10 euros on top. So the couriers know it up front and they're motivated to go and do it.
So that was, so choosing, getting McDonald's and choosing the other model rather than your main competitor, Glovo, at that time, was another kind of milestone for the company, which actually was kind of a bet at the moment when the decision was made, probably. Still, it's nobody knew, right, how it was going to turn out, but still something that gave you the competitive advantage with the fight that you had, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with again, you know, like terms like success and who won is very, very kind of squishy to me, because I honestly think that, you know, like Rocket needed Glovo, right? Because they came around, they pumped up so many millions of here, like they started educating the market. So following them into every city was way easier than we would have done it ourselves. You come into to the partners, you tell them what the business is about, they know, right? And this is why expansion is also possible, because you come in, you don't have to educate the market. They know what it is. You're the third tablet. It's harder to compete, but it's way easier to enter. As with any new solution after TV, internet is much faster, right? After Facebook, like Instagram is much faster on its expansion. So again, I would likely say, like, of course, we compete in one sense. On the other sense, we are together in educating the market, because the percentage of people who are ordering food online is still tremendously small in comparison to any developed country. So we have to educate a lot of people and get this habit, ongoing. So we're both, and with the new players, we're kind of like educating the market. But on the other side, yes, we do compete. We do compete for the couriers, for the clients. But there's short-term competition from which everybody loses, I believe. And there is long-term competition, which should be driving services better for the customers and for the couriers, honestly, right? The short-term competition is bad when people start doing the usual, like discounts, like it's killing any business, right? But I guess it's a way to, we do use them to enter new markets, because how otherwise you're going to make new people, try your service, unless like basically buying them. But on the other side, if this continues forever, the client gets used to paying less, right? And it's really hard. I even see by myself after the discounts, when I'm used to spending 15 euros for lunch, why the hell will I want to spend 30? It's just, it doesn't make sense. And if you feed me like that for a month, it's not about even having money or not having money. It's the mentality, right? So like, I'm used to spending 15, I don't want to spend more. So in that sense, unfortunately, and this is, we can touch on a topic of this global, fight of all the different companies, because unfortunately, like price fighting is a lot which takes part in it. And eventually, this is why market will have to consolidate, join together, and there cannot be that many players, because otherwise it will keep on undermining the industry itself with trying to win clients and couriers with pricing, which is not sustainable.
Absolutely. What I actually meant was the choice of the work model with couriers was I'm sorry, the second kind of step after McDonald's that actually chose the path for the development, and which turned out to be the right move, right? So that you can keep on growing and developing because you were bringing in something new to the market. And if I'm not mistaken, at that time, Uber was either already left or was kind of on the way leaving.
They were leaving, yes.
So it was like two separate models of working with couriers who were offering close to the same products, but the management kind of decisions were different. And that was also the milestone that helped you to move and make another step to the scale, right?
Yeah. Well, decision to go with one scheme or another was actually done in the very, very beginning. Just the first days when I joined the company, this was because me having, experience and expertise in the industry, plus I was super dealing with couriers themselves in Ukraine. So I knew them perfectly. I knew majority of the couriers working totally in all the industry in Kyiv. And so I knew, so it was no brainer to me that this is the way to go because I saw and knew how to attract couriers to this model. And basically in the beginning, I wasn't thinking of the scale of the company of 29 cities. I was thinking at that time, we have to go to Kyiv, we have to win Kyiv, or at least have couriers enough to deliver our orders. And I knew that this was the way to go. So it was, it wasn't a super strategic decision. It was a very local decision. But yeah, it definitely helped. But of course, now talking globally, we do have different schemes around the globe now. Like if we just, for a second jump up in today's world, in every country, you have to choose somewhere you have to go into hiring, somewhere you have to go through your fleet partners, somewhere you're okay working with freelancers. So we're going to be tweaking. Because when you hire guys, you can put them on a schedule, no problem at all. There's no need to motivate them or not motivate because they're paid money, they're ready to work there, right? And then it's a much more complicated game. How do you come up with a good cost of delivery with combination of hired guys and freelancers? Because then you have to get extra motivation on top for the freelancers to come up and work where you don't have enough of the hired guys, because you always have your peak hours. You cannot have the same number of couriers during the day, right? And how do you get during 3 hours, triple number of couriers? It's impossible. You either hire 900 people and then you're oversupplied and spend over money. You see, that's the problem of the whole business model. How do you do with the 2 peak hours? And
supply and demand.
Yes.
It's definitely the biggest challenge to balance the supply and demand. The rainy day can spoil your day and can spoil your business. So definitely it is a challenge for all the businesses to walk and to not lose the speed on the way. But coming back to the story of the walking from the smaller business of 20 people, then 120 people, what was the next step, the next stage? Uber Eats leaving the market, it's you and Glovo, different models of having couriers on the streets, different partners. Obviously, you had some different restaurants and different exclusivity deals, your own marketing campaigns. But what was the moment when you thought or you understood that you're not just in the ring with Muhammad Ali, but when you can actually step in the ring when 10 Alis, and when you can get to the camp full of quite big, well-funded guys, and when you are making the first plans and even thoughts and decisions to go and become something bigger than just a local neighborhood company, still with 100 people, still big, still McDonald's, but still go into the different mentality.
Okay. Yeah, it's just that these 2 years fly by like 1 second. It's so interesting, but yeah, so many things have been going on. Definitely. After we had McDonald's on board and during the COVID, obviously things are flying, but it's so funny, but at the same time, we've been investing in marketing quite a lot, right? Because when we did the analysis, and it was quite obvious that the awareness of the people is still way on the side of the global, right? They've been in there for ages. Everybody knew that. But so we invested quite heavily, and you could see lots of billboards on the buildings, etc. That was the stage where you have to pump it up for people to know about you before you start. Then you can convert them, you can fight for him. But for now, people had to find out about Rocket. And that was the stage of, like, you could see lots of us, and if you in the subway stations are covered in it. It's funny walking around the city and seeing your own brand everywhere, because like you feel, and it's funny, I've been coming back to that feeling from time to time. I remember myself in Malaysia seeing all these guys. It's pretty cool to deal with business, when you see it's kind of, it's seen, it's part of the city, and then you see your guys on the streets, and then you're kind of like, hey, this Rocket guy, but then it becomes normal, every time you need someone, Rocket guy comes out. It's a nice feeling. So anyway, yeah, so it transitions into bigger and more complicated model. We grew, we started hiring like very cool people, and it's super nice to be on the level of the company when your GMV allows you, or justifies investments when you start hiring like really cool, smart people. Because in the beginning, it's more about luck. I'll be honest with you, like, like founders, and then like they met me by luck. It wasn't even like, a processed hiring thing. We met, they're like, oh my God, let's do it, right? But when you're big enough and when you can, like, with the goal, headhunt or hire like very cool people with expertise in zones, it's very cool. So we got a new CTO before we had any, like a project manager was managing it. We hired a head of product, and lots of processes were added, and it's so cool, because you can learn together. When this is the stage of the company where it becomes cool, because your surroundings become very cool, smart people. Because in the beginning, you just do what you do with you invest, and it's always, sticks and stones, right? But it becomes more complicated, more mature, more professional. And then we had a very cool added head of HR to us, and it starts to, because everybody is big and autonomous, they start doing your thing, you don't see it, but like in 1 month's time, you see procedures, processes, and it's more complicated, more structured. I always like to compare, have you seen this film, Fight Club? You probably have. And there's a moment when the guy, falls asleep and comes back to reality. And one time he wakes up, he's in his own building, and he's people walking around doing something, some papers on the wall. He picks it up and says, one of them comes up, sir, don't worry, we got it all under control. That's the kind of feeling, you go to the office, you don't recognize half of the faces, because first of all, you've been working remotely most of the time. And second, you hire too fast to be introduced to everyone. And suddenly, you have 100 people in your IT, and you definitely, you obviously know all the leaders and stuff who you personally collaborate with. But it's funny. So yeah, and there was a moment, the idea of expansion came from the top. I would say it comes from the investor who has pretty good vision, I suppose. It's a good idea. It is something which I wouldn't make at that stage. But then again, that's why I think people should be having different profiles. So somebody from the efficiency and operations, you have to be a fantasy guy to say that, okay, we're ready to go fight the big guys, honestly, because like with any normal, rational person, wouldn't make that decision. And that's the funny part, because lots of things would not be happening if only rational people would be making the decisions. So my job, and I'm pretty, enjoying the position of operating officer, because usually when they see opposition, it's more of a pressure of strategic decisions and investor relations very often, right? But here, I'm like, I don't know, like, we could discuss it, but okay, we're going on expansion, and then your task is to deliver the best when you can.
Make it happen. Its decision was made. Just make it happen.
Decision was made. Let's go. 10 countries, sure, yeah, why not? But again, I could talk forever in this, but this is an important moment, because obviously at that stage, I mean, that was a next big survival place.
What is the strategy? Why are we doing it? Why are we entering 10 markets, 100 markets? It is just the second year of Rocket. It's not even about business. It's about the relationships. Are you walking the same path? Do you have actually the same goals that you're achieving?
First country, I just found like we went to wanted to launch Cyprus. I just got friends on the phone who lived there. UberEats has 3,500 for 10 years working in San Francisco, you know, and you're competing with these guys, you know. And then the next day it was like 200 couriers sending without orders. So I'm panicking. I'm pushing on marketing, give me the orders because my courier is going to go away tomorrow. We got into this big, huge fight without asking ourselves, what are we doing? Definitely all these number of players are not survivable. What is it about? Is it about success? Is it, how do we measure success?